Everything in life is governed by a law you cannot escape. What you neglect will wither, and what you nourish will grow. Your personal growth, your relationships, your health, your wealth, every area of your life responds to this law. The universe doesn't care about your excuses or your intentions. It only reacts to your actions and your focus. Neglect might feel comfortable in the moment, but it silently erodes your potential, while nurturing the right habits, mindset, and goals can transform your life in ways you never imagined. The law of neglect versus nourishment is relentless. You can ignore it, resist it, or pretend it doesn't exist, but the consequences will come anyway. If you neglect your health, one day your body will remind you. If you neglect learning and skills, the world will pass you by. If you neglect your relationships, even the people you love will drift away. On the other hand, consistent nourishment, even in small steps, compounds over time, building momentum, resilience, and opportunities. This is not magic, it is law. Those who understand it use it. Those who don't pay the price. The choice between neglect and nourish is not always obvious, and the consequences are often delayed. But that is what makes this law so dangerous and so powerful. You might neglect a seed today, thinking nothing will happen, but tomorrow it rots. You might nourish a skill or habit today, feeling like it's insignificant, but years later it becomes your advantage, your freedom, your legacy. Life doesn't reward laziness. It rewards attention, focus, and care. And every moment you choose to nourish, you step closer to the life you truly desire. Everything in life is governed by a law that you cannot escape. It doesn't care about your mood, your excuses, or how busy you think you are. This law is simple yet profound. What you neglect will wither, and what you nourish will grow. Think about it for a moment. Every relationship you have, every skill you possess, every dream you carry in your heart responds to this law. Ignore it, and you feel the consequences. Embrace it, and you unlock the doors to possibilities you never imagined. Life doesn't hand out rewards for good intentions. Life responds to actions, attention, and energy. If you neglect your talents, they disappear. If you neglect your health, it deteriorates. If you neglect your mind, your knowledge remains stagnant. The world doesn't wait for you to catch up. It moves forward with or without your participation. Consider the simple example of a garden. A neglected garden, left without water, sunlight, or care, becomes overrun with weeds. It does not thrive because you hope it will. It withers because it is ignored. On the other hand, a garden that is nourished, even in small doses, watering, sunlight, pruning, fertilize, and grows lush, vibrant, and full of life. Your mind is a garden. Your habits are seeds. Your attention is the sunlight and water. Neglect them, and chaos fills the space. Nourish them, and beauty emerges over time. And the beauty that grows from care is not just external. It is internal. It shapes your character, your confidence, your energy, your capacity to achieve more than you ever thought possible. Now, think about your personal growth. Every day that you ignore learning something new, that you skip exercising your mind, that you fail to push yourself outside your comfort zone, you are allowing neglect to silently shrink your potential. Neglect is deceptive. It feels comfortable at the moment. You tell yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm too busy," or "I can live without this for now." But time doesn't wait. Momentum is not created by waiting. It is created by action. A tiny bit of nourishment each day compounds into enormous results over months and years. The people who seem to have extraordinary talent or success didn't get there by accident. They nourished their skills consistently, day after day, while others neglected the same opportunities. Relationships are no different. If you ignore the people who matter, if you fail to invest time, attention, and care into those around you, slowly but surely distance grows. A neglected friendship, a neglected marriage, a neglected professional relationship, they all weaken. On the other hand, relationships that are nourished thrive. They become sources of joy, strength, and support. People remember those who showed up, who listened, who gave their attention and care. Life doesn't reward passive observers. It rewards participants, nurturers, and contributors. Let's talk about health. Your body is your most valuable asset, and yet so many neglect it until the warning signs become impossible to ignore. A single day of poor nutrition or inactivity may not feel like it matters, but it matters more than you think. Every day is a choice to either nourish your body or neglect it. What you put in your body, what you allow it to endure, what you strengthen or ignore, will determine your energy, longevity, and quality of life. There is no escaping this. Health does not negotiate, and it does not forgive neglect. But consistent care, exercise, proper nutrition, rest, and attention pays dividends that compound over a lifetime. Even your financial life is subject to this law. Money, like any other resource, requires attention. Neglect it, spend it carelessly, avoid learning how to manage it, and it disappears faster than you realize. Nourish it, invest, save, learn, and strategize, and it grows quietly but powerfully. The difference between financial struggle and financial freedom often comes down to which path you choose consistently, neglect or nourishment. Small, disciplined actions over time create wealth, while neglect erodes it without anyone noticing until the consequences become painful. And let's not forget your mind, your most powerful tool. Knowledge, skills, creativity, and wisdom require constant nourishment. The mind, when neglected, becomes weak, narrow, and fearful. The mind, when nourished, grows sharper, stronger, and unstoppable. Every book you read, every lesson you apply, every conversation that challenges you is sunlight for your mental garden. Neglect these, and your potential shrinks silently. Nourish them, and your capacity to influence the world expands in ways you never imagined. This law is simple, but it is relentless. You cannot escape it. You can pretend to ignore it. You can deny it, but life will remind you, gently or harshly, depending on how long you neglect it. Every success story, every great life, every fulfilled dream is built on the foundation of nourishment. And every regret, every missed opportunity, every sense of I could have done more, comes from neglect. The magic is in the small, daily choices. What you neglect today will become tomorrow's regret. What you nourish today becomes tomorrow's strength, tomorrow's opportunity, and tomorrow's freedom. You may not see the results immediately, but they are being written day by day with every action or inaction. This is the law you cannot escape. It is impartial, precise, and powerful. The difference is in whether you choose to ignore it or embrace it, whether you choose to let your life wither or to grow it intentionally, passionately, relentlessly. The law of neglect versus nourishment is relentless. You can ignore it, you can resist it, you can pretend it doesn't exist, but the consequences will come anyway. Life doesn't wait for your readiness, and it doesn't negotiate with your excuses. Every moment of inattention, every choice to ignore what matters, quietly shapes your destiny. If you neglect your health, one day your body will remind you in ways you cannot ignore. If you neglect your skills, your knowledge, your growth, the world will pass you by. If you neglect your relationships, even the people you love most will drift away. This is not a theory, it is reality, and the same applies in the positive sense. Consistent nourishment, no matter how small, compounds over time, building momentum, resilience, and opportunities that seem almost magical. This is the law of life, impartial, exacting, and universal. Think about it this way: neglect is like a silent thief. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. You don't notice it immediately. A missed workout today doesn't seem like a problem. A skipped opportunity to learn today feels inconsequential. A neglected conversation with a loved one seems harmless, but neglect has a way of growing in the shadows. One day, that small habit of neglect manifests as poor health, missed promotions, lost trust, or regret that hits harder than you ever imagined. Neglect compounds in the negative direction just as nourishment compounds positively. And the scary part is that it often sneaks up quietly, leaving you unprepared. Now, think about professionals and entrepreneurs. The difference between someone who excels and someone who struggles is rarely about talent alone. It is about attention and consistency. The successful person nourishes their knowledge, hones their skills, invests in relationships, and builds habits that create momentum. They understand the power of small, intentional steps over time. The person who neglects these areas may appear fine in the short term, but over months and years, they fall behind. The gap isn't random. It is the natural result of this law. Life rewards those who show up consistently, who pay attention, who nurture growth, and it penalizes those who allow neglect to dictate the course of their actions. Relationships provide one of the clearest illustrations of this law. Consider a friendship or a marriage. When people stop investing time, attention, and care, the connection slowly erodes. It may begin with small oversights, a missed call, a forgotten date, a lack of appreciation. But over time, the distance grows. Neglect doesn't always scream, it whispers. Nourish a relationship with time, empathy, and active listening, and it flourishes. Life, after all, reflects the energy we pour into it. People are not rewarded for passive existence. They are rewarded for intentional engagement, for showing up, for giving, for nurturing. Health is another undeniable example. Every day you ignore proper nutrition, physical activity, rest, and mental care, your body moves a little further from its peak potential. Illness doesn't wait for convenience. Energy doesn't replenish itself automatically. Neglecting your body is like leaving a valuable machine in a damp, dusty garage. You might get away with it for a while, but eventually the breakdown comes. On the other hand, even small, consistent actions, stretching for 5 minutes, drinking water, eating clean, walking a little more, compound over time into a life of strength, energy, and vitality. This law doesn't care whether you know it or not. It acts whether you acknowledge it or ignore it. Financial growth follows the same principle. Ignoring budgeting, avoiding learning about investments, and failing to plan for the future is a form of neglect that compounds silently. Small decisions to spend carelessly, procrastinate, or ignore opportunities may feel harmless today, but over months and years, they create a widening gap between where you are and where you want to be. Conversely, even modest, consistent investments in education, skill, Building, saving, and planning are nourishment that compounds invisibly at first, but ultimately produces freedom and abundance. The secret to financial success is not luck. It is consistent attention and care over time. The mind is perhaps the most sensitive to this law. Your mental and emotional growth requires intentional nourishment. Neglect your thoughts, avoid learning, refuse to challenge your beliefs, and your mind stagnates. It becomes narrow, fearful, and reactive. Nourish your mind with knowledge, reflection, meditation, and critical thinking, and it becomes sharper, more creative, more resilient. Great ideas, opportunities, and solutions rarely emerge from neglect. They are born in the soil of attention, patience, and consistent effort. What makes this law both dangerous and empowering is the delay of its consequences. Neglect may feel painless today. Nourishment may feel invisible at first. But this is the true test of character, discipline, and vision. Those who understand it, who act despite delayed results, who commit to daily investment in themselves, their relationships, and their dreams, gain exponential return. Those who ignore it, who wait for emergencies or crises to force action, often suffer consequences that could have been avoided. Time amplifies both neglect and nourishment. This law does not negotiate. It does not forgive. It does not care about excuses or intentions. Life will reward or punish consistently and impartially, and here is the key: you have complete control over which side of this law you align with. You can choose to neglect and watch life erode slowly around you, or you can choose to nourish, to invest, to give attention and care, knowing that every small act builds momentum toward a stronger, richer, fuller life. Success, health, wealth, and happiness are not accidental. They are cultivated. Every day presents opportunities to act. Every conversation, every workout, every learning moment, every financial choice, every gesture of care is a chance to nourish. Ignore them, and the law works against you. Engage with them, and the law becomes your ally. It is impartial, precise, and unyielding. The question is not whether this law works. It works without fail. The question is which side you will choose. Which will you embrace, neglect, or nourish? Because the consequences will arrive, one way or another, and when they do, they will be undeniable. The choice between neglect and nourish is not always obvious, and the consequences are often delayed. But that is precisely what makes this law both dangerous and powerful. Life does not announce its laws with banners or fanfare. The effects of neglect are subtle at first, almost invisible. You might neglect a skill, thinking it will never matter. You might delay reading a book, believing that one day of inattention will not change anything. You might skip a conversation with a loved one, thinking that relationships can withstand a day, a week, a month of silence. But neglect works quietly, invisibly, steadily, like water dripping on stone. Over time, the cumulative effect of these small acts, or failures to act, shapes your reality. One day, you wake up and realize that opportunities have passed, relationships have weakened, and your dreams feel further away than ever. On the other hand, nourishment is equally subtle at the beginning. Plant a seed today, water it, give it sunlight, and you may not see anything for days, weeks, or even months. But beneath the surface, transformation is happening. Roots are spreading, strength is building, growth is taking shape. In the same way, the actions you take to nourish yourself, your talents, your relationships, and your mind may feel small or insignificant in the moment, but they compound quietly, building momentum, resilience, and abundance. One day, seemingly out of nowhere, you notice that your life has shifted. The skills you practiced have become mastery. The relationships you nurtured have become unbreakable bonds. The dreams you invested in have begun to manifest in ways you never imagined. Consider a student who neglects learning one day. Perhaps they skip studying a single chapter or miss a lesson. It seems harmless, almost irrelevant, but each skipped opportunity is like a small crack in the foundation. Over time, those cracks widen until suddenly the foundation of knowledge is weak, and failure is inevitable. Contrast this with a student who spends even just a few minutes a day nourishing their mind, reading, practicing, reviewing, asking questions. Initially, the results may not be visible, there may be no immediate recognition, but months later, the same student is ahead of peers, confident, prepared, and capable of achieving what once seemed impossible. This is the invisible power of nourishment over neglect. Even in health, the same principle applies. Missing a single workout, eating one unhealthy meal, or ignoring your body for a day might seem inconsequential. But neglect compounds quietly. Your energy decreases, your metabolism slows, your strength diminishes, and eventually, minor neglect becomes major consequences. Conversely, nourishing your body through consistent exercise, proper nutrition, sleep, and mental care compounds over time into extraordinary results. Strength, vitality, longevity, and resilience are the rewards for consistent attention. Life doesn't offer shortcuts. It offers laws, and one of the most fundamental is that consistent care produces remarkable outcomes. Relationships, too, reveal this law with remarkable clarity. Neglect a partner, a friend, a family member, or a colleague, and small distances grow. A missed call today becomes a week of silence tomorrow. Unacknowledged feelings grow into misunderstandings. Trust erodes quietly. Conversely, when you intentionally nourish a relationship, show empathy, listen actively, spend time together, express gratitude, the connection strengthens. Bonds that might have weakened through neglect flourish into deep, meaningful, lasting relationships. Life's law is precise. Relationships, like any living thing, grow through attention and care, or they decay through neglect. The law applies to wealth and financial growth as well. Ignoring your finances, procrastinating, failing to plan, or spending without strategy is neglect. It compounds quietly until debt, missed opportunities, or financial stress emerge. Conversely, nourishing your financial life, budgeting, saving, investing, learning about money, creates growth that multiplies over time. Even modest, consistent actions, repeated daily, can transform your financial reality. Wealth is rarely the result of luck. It is the result of disciplined attention, strategic nourishment, and a refusal to let neglect dictate the outcome. Perhaps the most powerful application of this law is to your character and personal growth. Neglecting your personal development, your values, your mindset, your emotional intelligence, allows weaknesses to grow and challenges to dominate. Nourishing your character through reflection, learning, integrity, and perseverance builds a foundation that supports every area of life. When neglect is avoided and care is given, even the smallest choices compound into extraordinary strength of character, resilience in adversity, and the ability to seize opportunities others cannot. This law is impartial. It does not favor talent, luck, or circumstance. It responds only to attention and action. Delays in consequences can fool you into thinking neglect is harmless or that nourishment is insignificant. But over time, the results become undeniable. The person who consistently nourishes their life, even in small, seemingly insignificant ways, becomes unstoppable. The person who consistently neglects experiences the slow erosion of their potential, often with regret as their only companion. The beauty of this law is also its empowerment. You have the choice every single day. Every moment presents an opportunity to nourish or neglect, to invest in your growth or ignore it, to care or abandon, to build or allow decay. And while the consequences of neglect may arrive silently at first, the rewards of nourishment also arrive quietly until one day they become undeniable. You may not see the fruits of your labor immediately, but that does not mean they are not growing beneath the surface. This is the law you cannot escape. Life will respond predictably and impartially to every decision you make regarding neglect or nourishment. The difference lies in whether you act consciously, whether you recognize the power of small, daily choices, and whether you invest attention, care, and energy into the things that matter most. Neglect may seem harmless, nourishment may seem invisible, but both compound. One day you will look around, and the life you are living will be the sum total of the choices you made. The question is not if this law works, it works without fail. The question is which side you will choose. Will you allow life to wither through neglect, or will you cultivate, nourish, and grow, even when the results are not immediately visible, knowing that what you invest today determines the strength, freedom, and abundance of tomorrow? So, let me ask you, what are you neglecting in your life right now? What seeds are you leaving untended while expecting them to grow on their own? Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your knowledge. Maybe it's that relationship you've been taking for granted. Maybe it's your dreams, tucked away on the back burner while life rushes past you. The truth is, neglect is invisible in the moment. It's quiet, subtle, and often disguised as comfort. But neglect does not forgive. It doesn't care about your excuses, your intentions, or how busy you are. It waits, and one day you will feel its consequences, and sometimes it's too late to undo what has been lost. Now imagine a different path. Imagine if today you chose to nourish. Imagine if you gave a little attention, a little care, a little effort to the areas that matter most. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to overhaul your life in a single day. All it takes is consistent action, small steps repeated over time, and suddenly momentum begins to build. 1 hour spent learning, one call to a friend, one healthy meal, one small investment in your future. They are all acts of nourishment. They might feel insignificant today, but remember, the most powerful things in life start small, invisible, and quiet until one day the results are undeniable. Think about a garden. If you ignore it, weeds take over. The plants wither, the soil becomes barren. But if you water it, prune it, fertilize it, and give it sunlight consistently, it thrives, it blooms. It becomes a place of life, color, and growth. Your life is no different. Your mind, your body, your relationships, your dreams, each one responds to what you give it. Neglect it, and it suffers silently. Nourish it, and it rewards you in ways that can feel almost magical. The choice is yours. Every day, every moment, you decide which law you will honor, neglect or nourishment. Let me tell you something very important. Nourishment is not always easy. Growth requires discomfort. Caring requires attention when you would rather relax. Learning requires effort when your mind is tired. But that effort is the difference between a life that is ordinary and a life that is extraordinary. Every great achiever, every person who has made an impact, every individual you admire has understood this law. They have chosen to nourish when neglect seemed easier. They have chosen to act when it would have been simpler to ignore. They understood that small, consistent choices compound into results that define destinies. Now, hear this, you are not too late. No matter how much you may have neglected in the past, the moment you decide to nourish, the law begins to work for you. The moment you take action, the soil of your life begins to respond. Don't wait for the perfect day. Don't wait for circumstances to be ideal. The perfect moment is right here, right now. Start small. Start today. Make the choice to give attention, to care, to grow, to learn, to love, to invest in yourself and others. The results will follow. They might be slow at first, but they are coming, and one day they will arrive in a way that surprises you with their magnitude. Let me ask you another question. What story do you want your life to tell? Do you want it to be a story of missed opportunities, regrets, and neglected potential? Or do you want it to be a story of growth, achievement, and the fulfillment of dreams? The law doesn't care which path you choose. It responds the same way regardless. But your choices today determine the story you will tell tomorrow. If you nourish, your story becomes one of triumph, resilience, and unstoppable momentum. If you neglect, your story becomes one of quiet erosion, lost chances, and roads not taken. And here's the secret, nourishment is contagious. When you invest in yourself, you inspire others. When you give attention to your relationships, your care multiplies. When you grow, your growth creates opportunities for those around you. Neglect, on the other hand, isolates. It diminishes not only your life, but the lives of those who depend on you. This is why this law is so critical to understand. It doesn't just affect you. It affects every person, every opportunity, every moment that intersects with your life. So, today, I challenge you. Look around and ask yourself, what am I neglecting that I must nourish? What is a small action I can take today to grow my mind, my body, my relationships, my finances, my dreams? Take that action, no excuses, no delays. Start small, start now, start consistently, because the law of neglect versus nourishment cannot be escaped. It will act whether you are ready or not. And the sooner you embrace it consciously, the sooner your life transforms into the extraordinary version of yourself you were meant to be. Remember this. Neglect will quietly destroy, but nourishment will quietly build. The choice is in your hands. Your life is the result of what you pay attention to, what you care for, and what you invest in. You have everything you need to start. The question is, will you choose wisely? Will you choose to nourish today, tomorrow, and every day after? Because that choice will define the rest of your life. And the time to start is now.